So this style right here is what we are going to be learning how to make today. You can see how beautiful it is, and it is quite trending at the moment. The first thing we want to do is to cut our half length. In this case, it is going to be our under bust first. So now you want to put your fabric on fold. I've already folded it before I now decided to fold it according to the length of my under bust. The length of my under bust is 15 inches. You are going to add half inch to the length of your under bust for joining, that is 15.5. Then you are going to add 1 inch. You can see that I've chalked the 1 inch, so the 1 inch is going to act as our rope channel. You know, it has rope, it has draping on the shoulder area. So now after that, you proceed to mark 2 inch as the neck width. Then you are going to go down by 1 inch on the new line, I mean the rope channel line. Go down by 1 inch from there, and you are going to connect it all the way from the neck width down to our shoulder slope. Now that we have a new shoulder slope, what we want to do now is to impute our new rope channel of 1 inch accordingly. Then you are going to rule it according to what you had measured, just the way I am doing here. Now that we have done that, the next thing we want to do now is just to connect your neck width all the way from the top to your half length, straight into your half length. Then the next thing we want to do is to indicate the width of our sleeve. So in that case, from your shoulder slope, you can decide to come down by 10 inches, 9 inches. It depends on how wide you want it to be. Then after doing that, the next thing now is to determine how wide you want your under bust to be. If you had gotten that, you can just like go in by 3 inches from your sleeve. Then you are going to connect it, you know, the common boo-boo armhole. So you are going to give it that shape. Now on that point, you go in by 1 inch, and you're going to connect it straight into your shoulder slope. Now that we have done that, so the next thing I want to do now is just to deduct 1.5 inch from that point. Then you're going to blend this straight into your center, front and back. So remember, we are cutting our front and back together. That is why we have to double it twice. So the next thing now is to go ahead and cut, and note all these little subtraction is just to give it a little more fit. You can decide to leave yours straight like that. There's no harm in doing that. So now you can see the 1.5 that I went up with. You're going to trim it a bit and straight into your center, front and center back. Then on the sleeve area, straight into your shoulder slope. Then you are going to cut, and do not forget to indicate, don't forget to add your rope channel. It is important, so it will not affect your body's measurement. Now the next thing is to cut the neckline. As you can see, I am cutting both the front and the back together. Now that we have done this, you can notch your rope channel points, so you are going to know when you are sewing. The next thing to do now is to set aside this, pin everything together, and you are going to set them aside. Now that we have done that, what we want to do now is to cut our band. I'm going to call it band. Now, because we are cutting the front and back together, you are going to double it once, and you are going to double it twice again. So the next thing is to add your smoky allowance. It is going to be smoked. In my case, I added 5 inches. The next thing now is to measure 1 inch like so, and you are going to mark it. So that point is where the measurement of your band is going to start. Then from there, you are going to measure the length of your band all the way like this. Then after getting that, don't forget that it is going to be Basque. You need to label, so you are going to know the point where you start your measurement. Now don't forget that your under bust is 15 inches. Now subtract 15 inches from your waistline, and you are going to mark where your waist is going to be. Now from your waist, you are going to go ahead and label. You can see that I've labeled my own. So from there, you measure your bust measurement, and then you are going to put your seam allowance. On your waistline, you measure your waist measurement divided by 4, add your seam allowance as well. Then on the last point, you put your hip measurements, and you are going to, shape them accordingly like so. Now you can see that it is too curved, so you are going to blend the waistline into the hip line and the bust line, so to give it this curve instead of the sharp edge that we had before. Now you are going to label that as well. Now don't forget that we already know the length of our band, and from your waistline go down by 3 inches or 2 inches, it depends on you, and you are going to basque it straight into the length of your band. Remember I told you it is going to be basque, so the difference between your new waist and your basque could be 3, it could be 2, it depends on how much you want the basque to be obvious. Now on the upper part, you are just going to slant it into the center, front and back like so. I want it to be elevated by 1 inch a bit on the upper part. So you are going to see what I meant by that. So the next thing is to proceed to cut out everything we had patterned. Now, the you can see that I've notched the waist area. You can see that I've lifted it up by 1. You can see that. Then you are going to proceed and cut your basque. But then do not forget that the back is supposed to be straight, but instead since I'm cutting front and back together, so I will have to separate the front from the back. And in this case I totally forgot that I will be adding zipper allowance, so I'm just going to manipulate my way to get my new zipper allowance. You can see what I did there, but I am safe because I'd already added excess of smoky allowance. So please make sure you don't forget when you are cutting yours. So you are going to go ahead and open your zipper allowance like so. Now, like I said earlier, oh, we are already done with that. So the next thing is to cut the gathers. So in this case, I use 4 yards of fabric to make this style. So, but if your client or if you want your gather to be fuller than mine, you can use 4 yards of gather, because in this case I'm using 2 yards of gather. I already used 2 for the upper bodies, so the remaining 2 yards is what I'm using for the lower bodies. I'm going to explain better in the next video on how to sew this beautiful style. So I had to split the video into 2. It was looking too long and I don't want to bore you people, so this is the first part. Now subtract your length, your upper bodies, from your full length, and whatever is left is your gather length, so to make up for your full length. So please make sure you add your joining allowance and your folding allowance too. So now that we have done that, we are basically done, guys. We are basically done with cutting. The next thing is to go ahead and cut our rope. And guys, we are done. I'm going to see you in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to see you in my next class. Do not forget to practice what you have learned. Let me know if this video was helpful. Bye.